The final chapter on JFK, Chapter 17, Segment 2, Warren Commission Creation.
Welcome back. This is Segment 2, the Warren Commission Creation. The President's Commission on the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, more often known as the Warren Commission, from the time it issued its report in 1964 up until the present, has always been harshly criticized for its efforts and its results. And that criticism, frankly, is justified. It should be understood that the Warren Commission was not a standard criminal investigating agency like a grand jury. The Warren Commission did not exist before Kennedy's assassination, and it ceased to exist after the issuance of its report. No comparable investigating agency has ever been created like this in the United States. Some people have claimed that there was a similar agency created after the attack on Pearl Harbor to start World War II. But such a commission wasn't even close to what existed in the Kennedy case. Of primary concern for Lyndon Johnson was stopping any other hearings looking into the Kennedy assassination. And in fact, if we can, let's play a little bit of a tape where Johnson is talking about the need to stop any other hearings investigating the Kennedy matter.
Mr. President, that ought to eliminate the necessity for the Senate Judiciary Committee, shouldn't it?
Yes, and Eastland agreed that he wouldn't go ahead with it if it do this, and the House agreed the same way.
Oh, that's just excellent, Mr. President. I'm not kidding you. That's great.
Here's another audio segment of Lyndon Johnson stating that he did not want President Kennedy's brother, Robert F. Kennedy, involved in investigating or looking at the matter of his brother's death.
And that's what the Attorney General's doing. Now, if we have another commission, hell, you're going to have people running over each other, and everybody agrees. Now, I know that some of the lawyers, they thought of the Blue Ribbon Commission first, to justice. And we just can't have them lobbying against the president when he makes these decisions. We decided that the best thing to do was to counterattack. Number one, to put an FBI in full force. Number two, to put the state in full force. Now,
Mr. President, nobody lobbied me. I lay awake all night.
What about you? They lobbied me last night.
Did they?
Yeah, I spent the day on it.
And in fact, in creating the commission, one of the things that Johnson did was he would tell the potential commission members that they really didn't have to do anything aside from evaluate a report issued by the director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover. Let's play that tape for a second and listen to Johnson talking and saying that nothing has to be done aside from reviewing Hoover's report.
George items in there? Well, we'll just make the time. There's not going to be any time to begin with. All you're going to do is evaluate a Hoover report he's already made. But move that fast, don't we? Well, okay. Well, then we won't move any faster than you want to move. But you're gonna lend your name to this thing because you're head of the CIA committee in the Senate, and you're gonna have Fulbright and Hickenlooper on it because this thing is breaking faster than you think.
On Monday, November 25th, 1963, as the rest of the nation was still mourning the loss of its leader and burying President Kennedy, Johnson was working feverishly, trying to figure out a way to keep the assassination investigation in a way where he would still have control. By this time, according to Johnson's aides, Lyndon Johnson had already assumed that any finding of an assassination conspiracy would eventually point public attention directly to him. Further, he was aware that the FBI was being flooded with telephone calls and letters from citizens alleging that LBJ had a role in the president's killing. With knowledge that he was at least a suspect in the assassination, Lyndon Johnson knew that he had to have a reputable public outlet which would follow J. Edgar Hoover's FBI recommendations that the assassination was the work of a lone assassin, and that the committee would have enough prestige to be able to convince the American public that Lee Harvey Oswald was the sole assassin. He did not have any Confederates, and that the president's murder was caused by a madman. On that Monday, Johnson telephoned an assortment of members of the press into selected congressmen to get their feedback. When it appeared that such a commission would not be strongly objected to, Johnson then held more detailed discussions as to possible members of such a commission. Johnson called the commission a blue ribbon panel, experts, esteemed people. And for the very first person he was thinking about to put on this esteemed panel was none other than his confidant and attorney, Abe Fortas. Johnson's decision as to his first member to put on his impartial committee was his lawyer. When that didn't fly, Johnson next looked at a congressman from the state of Mississippi, an anti-civil rights, pro-Ku Klux Klan type of guy, to put on the committee. A man who hated and who had fought with John F. Kennedy and with Robert F. Kennedy. That was the man who Johnson next wanted to put on his committee as his first person. And he actually told Johnson no. And the next person he went to look at was none other than Hale Boggs, B-O-G-G-S, a Democratic senator from the state of Louisiana, good friend of Lyndon Johnson's, who not only had connections with the New Orleans mafia members, but a senator, along with mobster Carlos Marcello, were one of the few people that supported Lyndon Johnson when he attempted to obtain the 1960 Democratic nomination for president, in which we discussed before. Even though a deal had been reached, the state of Louisiana still went and backed Lyndon Johnson on the first ballot against Kennedy. And Hale Boggs was one of the members of that Louisiana delegation who backed Lyndon Johnson. And of course, surprisingly, he agreed to serve on Johnson's committee. The second member that Johnson asked, and that was U.S. Senator Richard B. Russell from the state of Georgia. Russell was the leader of the Senate's Southern Caucus, and he used his parliamentary skills and knowledge of Senate rules and procedures to defeat bills banning lynching, abolishing the poll tax relating to minority voting, and upholding discrimination against Black Americans. And of course, he had a hate and hostility against both John F. Kennedy and his brother, Robert F. Kennedy. Richard Russell, as a second member of Johnson's commission, agreed wholeheartedly to serve and to evaluate Kennedy's death. Sometimes I guess I talk too much, and this is a circumstance. So what we're going to do for this segment is cut here. We're going to pick up this segment in a minute or two in a second part to this segment. See you then.